I just accept you because you washed my dishes and made my beds? I say no. I say you need to go back and come back in the right way.
So is that what the Indians should have told white Americans?
Absolutely. Ask Coach East if border control is
because
important.
the original illegal alien are European white folk in America.
Agreed.
And so should the Indians stand up today and say deport all white folks back to Europe?
Well, should we learn something from their mistake? Because we are here now.
Or should you learn something from their compassion to give other people an opportunity like was given to you and your ancestors? Learn from their compassion. That's what you should learn from.
I say learn from their mistakes. Geronimo, if taking care of your borders is important, we need to do that now.
And I agree with Coach East, Geronimo, and Sitting Bull. Letting in the white man was the worst mistake that the Indians ever could have made. I agree with you. That was one of the greatest mistakes. Even right there in South Africa, they got a similar problem.
She was talking to him about Mexicans, and he got pissed off.
Governor Abbott's desk has been signed by Governor Abbott. Basically, the anti-sanctuary city bill has been passed and is now law. And what that bill says is that if local law enforcement or state police view a criminal activity afoot, they make a stop on that state crime, and then they can inquire into the status of an individual's residence. Are they a lawful U.S. citizen? Are they here with a green card? Are they a permanent resident alien? Or are they here illegally without documentation? And if they are here illegally without that documentation, then the feds can get involved and then they can take it from there. I think this is a fantastic law. It is time to start enforcing the laws that are on the books instead of the state and local officials legislating from their own little tiny offices.
It's an awful law because it's nothing more than a legal way for law enforcement to racially profile Mexicans and Hispanics. This law was written into existence by Governor Abbott to specifically go after the said group of demographics here in the state of Texas. Secondly, it is awful that we want to call them illegal immigrants to the point to where if a cop does not do his job according to this law, he can be charged and arrested, and the cities can be given a $25,000 fine per day. Well, we'll put a cop in jail for not asking about his immigrant status, but we won't put cops in jail for shooting and killing unarmed black people.
That's not true, and that's way too far of a step. Murder is against the law.
But it's like when you kill black people, you're a cop. See, the problem in America in this state
What about the Dallas case where that cop was just charged with murder?
Video to show he was absolutely
You
lying.
make these broad
No,
statements. It should
because
simply not
often
true.
there's video, man, where we are killed by cops and nobody ever goes to jail. Ask Eric Garner's family that. Ask the family right there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for the Alton Sterling's family.
But you're saying that it's not right. Come on now.
Let's get back to the immigrants. I would say to the Hispanic and Mexican community, what you gotta do now, hook up with the black community and unite in political power, because if Mexicans and black people unite in Texas, we can control the governor, we can control the lieutenant governor, and we can control politics in Texas, period. I'm saying to Latino brothers and sisters, don't fight them by yourself. If you hook up with black people and we unite, I'm telling you, we can run Texas and then pass laws to deal with those who hate us.
You're advocating for criminal activity, Cornell. These people are not here lawfully. They need to do what our ancestors did, what many Mexicans have done,
Wait a minute.
Don't interrupt
Your
me.
ancestors came illegally. What's not legal about your ancestors? They came illegally and they murdered, they raped, they killed your whole race of people. This country, Texas, Arizona, California, belongs to Mexicans.
Well, now, get back
It was
to the
stolen from them.
You tell me to get back to the point.
They came in.
No, you're not being fair to me here. You say stay on topic. I say, okay, we'll stay on topic. And then as soon as we start talking about illegal immigration, you go back to the black issue. Let's stay on topic for now. Give me the opportunity to respond in that, you know what, we're all Americans here. And if you are here legally, absolutely, then we need to come together and we need to pass good laws for enforcing the law.
Well, perhaps America should have passed laws against your ancestors.
All persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. Using Elk versus Wilkins, because members of Indian tribes owe immediate allegiance to their tribes, they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are not constitutionally entitled to citizenship. So, according to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would mean that if we were to denounce our tribal
phrase of the 14th Amendment, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they argue that not everyone born in the United States qualifies as subjects to the jurisdiction of the United States. The Justice Department cited the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which was ratified 2 years prior to the 14th Amendment. It is one of the earliest laws that define citizenship. What's interesting about this is that it excludes two groups of people from citizenship. The first is subject to a foreign power, and Indians not taxed. Historically, the United States government treated all Native Americans as belonging to separate nations and not to the United States. And that all changed in 1924 with the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act, which granted all Native Americans in the United States citizenship. The Trump administration is arguing that the 14th Amendment should still exclude Native Americans because we are still subjects to a foreign power, which is our tribal nations. And they are citing a Supreme Court case that was decided in 1884 that stated that Native Americans are non-U.S. citizens unless they denounce their allegiance to their tribes. This is very controversial because the United States government and tribal nations have a long-standing agreement stating that Native Americans can have dual citizenship with the United States government and with our tribes. And the arguments that the Trump administration is trying to make will undermine all of this and throw away hundreds of years of treaties and negotiations that allow us to have our tribal sovereignty today. In addition to that, the 1884 Supreme Court case that decided that Native Americans are not U.S. citizens unless they renounce their tribal allegiance was basically deemed useless after the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924.
Natives America citizenship, their right to be American citizen is being questioned under this current administration. So are they American citizens or they're not? That's the debate people are talking about. Literally what happens is in America, the original owners of America as we know it are the natives Indians, you know, Native Americans. That is, those are the Indians. Those are the original owners of America. When the white settlers came, migrated, and they moved across the ocean, and they moved and settled in America as we know it, they found Native Indians in that land. Then what happened next? Of course, we all know, when you watch the Hollywood movies, you all know the history. They went through the land, they killed, they took over the land, they came up with treaties where they exchanged barter trade with the native, the whites again versus the natives. They took over the land, and of course they ended up, you know, subjecting the natives, Indians, you know, in dire conditions where they're like slaves, you know, they were like workers, and they were treated very harshly by the whites. And those treaties, they are applying up to today. Those treaties which were signed during the 18th century and up to today, they are being recognized under the American Constitution. And Native Indians, are they American citizens? Yes. While other people right now, they're arguing they're not American citizens. But the birthright, it is their right. Their citizenship, it is their right. Because at the end of the day, when you question who has the right to have the American citizenship, I feel like, in my opinion, the Native Indians are the ones who have the original right of having the citizenship of America. Because the reality is, they are the original owners of America. The whites who came into America, they just came in. They're not the original owners of America. So when I see a white man, a white American who's declaring that, oh, America, I belong in America, while the Native Indians of America, they don't belong in America, I find it very strange, because history, as we know it, history as has been shown that in time memorial, the natives, Indians, were the settlers, the original settlers of America. The white settlers came in. It's like someone then they take over your house and they throw you away, and then they tell you, oh, by the way, I am the owner of your house and you have nowhere to go. And basically that's what America is trying to do, which is not right. So Native Americans, Indians, they need to come up and go to the Constitution, talk to their Congress people, and literally come up with and ask them to come up with bills where they can safeguard their nationality, because at the end of the day, they are American citizens, just like the white Americans are citizens, and just like the black Americans are citizens of America. Let me know what you think about this video. But the reality is, you can never change history. Yes, you can try to change history, but the reality is you can never ever change history. People have recorded history. People right now, they're trying to change some things about history that they don't like, but the reality is the original history as we know it, people know. It has been documented in movies, it has been documented in the Constitution of America, it has been documented in novels, it has been documented in documentaries. You go do your research and you'll find all this information. Let me know what you think about it, and don't forget to subscribe.